With me in the studio is a panelist, a mini panelist session of some sort. I have a security analyst, Ayo Akanji, and of course an economist, Paul Alaje. They would be joining me to discuss and dissect how far Nigeria has fared in 58 years. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much.
Okay, quick question. Let's start with you, Paul. Looking at Nigeria generally, how have we fared? 58 years old.
I think we've been up and down. There were times where we had our ups, and there are times where we have our downs. So it's been up and down for 58 years. 1960, it was the year of independence. 63, Nigeria became a republic. 66, there was first military coup, which took out the then National Development Plan, which has rolled out how development will spread across the country. And after which another military coup took over from the first military coup, and yet another military coup, which now led to democracy. Democracy was short-lived around 83, December, for another military coup in 85, and after 85, there was an interim government in 1993 for another military coup. Then you come to 1999, where you have civilian rule, and after the civilian rule, you had another civilian rule. And perhaps this is the third or the fourth time, arguably, that you are having civilian rule of power coming from Democrat to Democrat, and so on and so forth. So, but what are the indicators? Is what should interest all of us. Nigeria started spending hard currency as the money given to us by colonial master, pound and sterling and shillings at some point. Later in the early 70s, we developed the naira, whose value was about 200% of the value of the dollar. Today, you need 360 naira to get $1. Meanwhile, half of a naira, 50 kobo, was equivalent of $1, which means naira has lost 720% of its value from the 70s till now. Again, we talk about unemployment. Unemployment then was about 11-12%. What we have today is 18.8%. Youth unemployment is about 33.1%. We talk about inflation. Apart from the Civil War period that we had huge inflation, I think the next time we had it was in recent times, say 2007 or 8, where you have about 20%, and early this year or last year, where you have about 18%. Inflation has been up and down also for Nigeria, but there are some good news. Nigeria started joined the global trend in using telecom, GSM, and it went AWire, it went everywhere. That's a good news for us. A lot of military government actually provided road for Nigeria more than civilian government. So you want to, some persons are saying, okay, maybe we should continue the military. It doesn't still.
So it looks like there's been some sort of decline.
No, there's been significant decline. There's nothing. Third Mainland Bridge, the longest bridge in Nigeria, was built by the military. The bridge in Benue, Niger, most of those bridges are built by the military, not civilian. So civilian may have challenges of legislation, if you like, or maybe not enough political will, if you like. In military, you don't start consideration of geopolitical zone spendings. If there is need, a military have the will to do it, they go for it, irrespective of where it's located.
Ayo, do you share that same view? Are you of that thought that Nigeria has actually declined, significantly in the last 58 years?
Not really, in as much as the indices he raised, they are quite right. He's given us a very good perspective from the country from 1960, from our independence to the trajectory we had with the military sting. But I think I'll come in from democracy, because we know the military government, there's no constitution, everything is up. But for democratic Nigeria from 1990 till now, I think our democracy has been consolidated. In 2015, we had a ruling party, transfer power to the opposition. This is no more opposition. This is no more civilian, but this is now a ruling party that's lost on opposition. So it shows you the maturity in democracy that is going. Of course, we're just less than 20 years in democracy. We don't really expect to have what other countries like America might have, other countries there. But let's look at the indices of this country right now. Since we became democratic, how far has it been going? And I'll look out for the various administrations that's come in place with different mandates or different visions. Obasanjo came and opened a space for telecommunication. Another government came in and expanded more. They're trying to regulate the power sector. When they unbundled PHCN, Now we have another one who's on ground here. Now let's look at let's analyze this government right now and see how far they're going with the history of the country. We're not where we're supposed to be, yes, but we are making the right step right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's start from the security of the country. You know, Nigeria has been faced with so many religious agitation. We've gone from the Niger Delta to the call for Biafra to different parts. And, you know, recently, of course, we saw the farmers' headers. Let's talk about how the evolution of our security has, you know, been threatened over the years. Has it been from one devil to another, or has it been increasing? Because the rate at which people are dying for reasons that cannot be properly explained. Isn't that a decline in our security?
It is, and that brings me back to a very good point you raised about. You see, during the military era, some military presidents or head of states then deliberately actually compromised some services from part of the armed forces for their own personal reasons. Like the Air Force, for example, was decommissioned because General Babangida then felt that was the arm we were trying to use to overthrow him. But now we didn't anticipate having this kind of challenge we're going to have right now or have in the future. Now we are back in democracy. Now we have to start retooling. We didn't expect to see Boko Haram in this country. We just saw people bombing we watched it on CNN in other countries. We never knew we were going to anticipate it here. So our leaders also did not anticipate that we're planning for our military. So that's why when it took us by surprise. So it's like it woke us up to the reality that, see, this thing that you're seeing from far is actually happening right here in front of you. And then our military guys were not ready. We didn't have anything on counter-terrorism. We had to start having training from British Army, from the US Army, and all other friendly countries that came to us. So I think it's been a sour grape. It's been good and bad, but in the end of it, it's waking us up to the challenges of the global order. I'm coming down to security issues now. We've had a lot of them. The farmer headers has been on for a very long time. Since I remember I was reading about the grazing route corridors. Before we had a lot of urban movement into different places. There used to be the route for the headers. They said when Abuja here, FCT, before Abuja became a capital, they passed here. It was a corridor for them to pass with. But now people are coming in, people are farming, there's more population.
Yeah.
So how can the government right now take care of this? Oh, I'll give you a little example of Boko Haram. Boko Haram was spotted out as a problem during Obasanjo's time. But because our security intelligence, I don't want to cut them off, but they were not ready, they were not up to the task to nip it in the bud as early at that stage, until they became a cancer. And even at then, the late President Yar'Adua gave orders to the army to do or the police to do what they had to do. But then these guys were already getting foreign trainings. They were already going to get training from Libya, from Gaddafi soldiers. Some of them were traced to Raqqa, which was the headquarters of ISIS in Syria. So before we woke up to the reality, they were all over us.
What happens to being proactive instead of being reactive? Because that's what we've been seeing lately with our security architecture. It's people are dead, and then we have to figure out what's happening. What happens to intelligence? What happens to nipping it now that it has become an issue? It's preventing lives from being lost. What happens to being proactive?
Clearly, good. That's why that's part of the reasons the president harped on in his speech yesterday. He said in the past we knew how it was. Boko Haram had a swath of land that they called their caliphates. Right now, what we face with them right now is called asymmetric warfare, which we've experienced in other parts of the climate, other parts of the world, right? But they hit and run. So they don't really have anywhere to boast us. So it tells you right now that the military has been reorganized. It's been retooled. They've been retrained. The British Prime Minister was here some days ago, like a month ago or so, where she said they've trained about over 40,000 Nigerian troops on how to fight counter-terrorism. As they finish training them, they deploy them straight to the battle, to the operational field, to go and put in their wealth of experience there. Now we're very proactive. See what's going on in the northwest. You can see that the issues with the bandits there has reduced drastically because the military went there and they opened a battalion with about 1,000 troops there. There's a rapid, quick response team of the Air Force in Katsina. They run ISR and they get intelligence and then they share with the ground troops and they attack them. And we've also been working with our neighbors. When the president came on board 2015, first thing he went to Niger. From Niger he went to Chad. So because the Chad basin is where this entire thing is happening. So when they leave Nigeria, they can go to other countries now. So we have to go and work with these leaders and see how we can come together under the multinational joint task force to fight this common enemy.
Okay, let's go to you, Paul. Let's see how terrorism has taken its toll on Nigeria as a country, and that of course has threatened our food security, which has also threatened our economy. now we're majorly, Nigeria is a country who's known to have natural resources, but we're basically relying on oil. And we can see how that has affected our economy to the point that, you know, we're considered one of the poorest, you know, countries, which, you know, wasn't the case. How do you see things would have been done differently to have prevented, you know, that further outage or that effect that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. The elders farmers clashes should have been curtailed years ago. However, a policy was introduced to federal government years back to embrace the Great Green Wall, which could have helped to reduce the desertation or the encroachment by Sahara Desert into the Nigerian land. But we failed to do that. So earthmen would like to come to a greener pasture of some sort for their livelihood. Abuja used to be one of the routes, but Abuja became a city. Nobody will force that they want to graze by force in Abuja because it's not a city. I think government needs to introduce modern life to those who still practices rearing of animals, of cattle, because it's a business in the real sense of it. We need to introduce modern life to them. But introducing this modern life should not be done overnight, should not be done by force, should not be done by, to change the way of life of the people, it takes a process. Our concern is that this process is not even being introduced at all. They might not be used to, say, what do we call it now? Having say where you rear animal, I can't get the right word. Ranches. They might not be used to that overnight because of cost, because of all of that. But you see, you have an elder that controls about 200 cows. Most of the cows are not owned by them. They are owned by some persons in different headquarters who are supposed to be making the law for us. So if you have 200 times 150, these guys are not poor. These guys are not poor people. They are employees of some persons in business terms. So what should we have done before? Because, you know, in NPC's report, farmers and elder clashes came up. And CBN governor was really worried at the kind of economy we have right now, which, of course, the major contributor to it is the clash. First, foreign reserve has started nosediving. Unemployment is all-time high, 18.8, underemployment 21%, youth unemployment 3%, all figures from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. Harvest period, we're having challenges. Flood also took its toll on us, particularly in Adamawa, down towards Taraba, and also the River Niger, River Benue, with the confluence in Lokoja. We have all of those issues. What I think government should do is go back to the Green Wall. It crosses Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the few countries where it goes around more than once. We have it in the core northern part, we have it in the tip part of Nigeria. What does it mean? Planting trees. If you go to some part where those people have their livelihood before, it has purely been taken over by desert. So we need to go back and replant for them to have modern life. Apart from that, we need to also run a reorientation program for these people to know that they are something Katsina have done. Katsina has sensors for all the cows. In Katsina, we don't have that in Kano. We don't have that in Benue. We don't have that all around Nigeria, so that if there is an issue, we can pinpoint just like human beings. But you may not want to blame state government, because we really don't know how many we have in Nigeria in the real sense of it. We have issues with database. Then how do you promote security when somebody can eat in Oyo State and that person tomorrow is in Kano State, and he can eat somebody in Kano and go to Enugu State. From Enugu, the guy is in Calabar, is back in Sokoto. You really don't know who is who in Nigeria. Some people may decide they don't like their country again in Niger Republic, and they find themselves in Nigeria because there is no data. What makes you a Nigeria? Anybody that found themselves on the shore of Nigeria and they have not been stopped and they don't have any other passport suddenly becomes a Nigeria. I think we need proper database for us to have not just security policy, but also economic policy to know, for us to even plan. We can't even plan if we don't know how many we have. So we need that. Again, we need to go back to some of the policies that have been initiated. In fact, there is a commission or maybe an agency of government for Green Wall. They are just within the shadow of themselves. So there are some true genuine elders who have left the core north, which was their domain, and have now resorted to the north central and the southern part of Nigeria, because they don't have what the natural thing their cow would have consumed up north. So for me, I think to a large extent, government needs to look back into these policies and see how they can revive them. Again, we need to, like I mentioned, orientation program, introduce people to a modern way of life at a lower cost. So it will make sense if government wants to support businesses, CBN is supporting micro businesses with single digit interest rate for them to run their MSME. What can we do for others? What can we do for farmers? Because when we do that, we are not helping that elder alone or that farmer alone, we're helping the food security of the nation. So do we need to even put up the ranch and say that you have to pay with one cow in a year as your repayment plan? So once you sell a cow, we're going to use the money for a cow as repayment. When meanwhile we're giving you this place, we are providing water for you. It's more understandable for the people in that class than saying we are giving you 10 million, pay 150,000. But if you have sold a cow, the money sold for the cow now belongs to the manager of government or the government representative at C2L. Then you can have a repayment plan. Then you can take most of these guys off the streets as we have them right now.
Okay, rightly said. Let's go back to you, Ayo. We're looking at how our security has, dwindled over the years. We're looking at how religious ethnicity has, come to play in all of these things. We see how there's been people who have argued that you could have the social cultural measures where you have religious leaders, come up to back peace or promote peace and promote. But what we're seeing now in the country is politics and religion has come to play. It has been one of the major factors in our security, problems that we're having. Yes, back then we had the Niger Delta. They were clamoring for, okay, clean up of land, what is ours, give us what is ours. Biafra is saying, okay, no, we want our own too, we want our own rights. Now, these people were clamoring for some things for their people. Farmers' headers came up and, was rightly stated, they didn't have space to graze, they didn't have electric killings. You saw what's happening in Jos. All of these are no longer they're not as advocating as threats used to be in the past. So can we say the way our religious structure and our political structure has evolved is what has led to what we have today?
Well, partly. Because right now we've experienced scenarios whereby you find out that churches are partisans or mosques. You find out, I'll give you an example of that. This is when they were investigating over $2.3 billion that was spent by the former NSA Dasuki. And then we heard about 3.3 billion naira given to someone to take people to Hajj, to somebody to go pray for the government. I can see that, we had Khan was factionalized. So you can see that now you had non-state actors becoming state actors. They found money in a Khan's president's jets to bring it to the country illegally. So this whole thing compromises the entire security architecture of the country. And that's why we need to actually get back and, like he was talking about, reorientation. We have to tell the people back. And I was really happy to see the Bishop Oyedepo yesterday, Kumi yesterday with the president.
Kumi, yes.
Who, the president was saying, I thank you for what you're doing by actually telling the people what the government is doing, either right or wrong. But we've seen other cases where you find pastors coming to the pulpit and saying things castigating the government or castigating security agencies. This sends the wrong signal to people.
Because of the effects that they're already having the lives of these people. Okay, Kach Ononuju, you're very much welcome. Political analyst and of course, political commentator, I must say. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And it has been a wonderful ride. Thank you, Paul and Ayo, for sitting through. Let's start with you, Kach. Let's talk about politically. How have we evolved? We're saying how the best democracy or the best democratic election, has been linked far back to, the Abiola election. We're looking at so many stories coming up, in what we're seeing today. Are we trying to say, where did we get it wrong politically? At what point did we lose it?
No, we're doing well. It's just once in a while you have mistakes. Somebody told me yesterday, happy independence. There's nothing happy about this independence. The freedom we thought we gained was suddenly smashed by a man who thought, because he holds the hammer of state, everything beneath is a nail. And I told myself, yes, Buhari may be desperate, but We saw this kind of desperation with people like Abacha, and it ended up with an apple. So nobody historically has been able to foist himself by force on a diverse society like Nigeria. They come, they go. The things we thought we gained, I believe, the biggest we gained, a newspaper asked me 2 days ago, and I said, yes, there are challenges, but the best thing we gained is the longest period of political stability in our country's history. And that long period of stability is what has caused the second independence to occur. The first independence occurred when the British left, the South became free. The second occurred as we now entered this period of democracy, the North is about to become free. And suddenly, in the Middle Belt, you're beginning to see exercise of freedom, an assertion of rights by Aboriginal people. And that's why you're seeing the Jukun, the TV, the Birum, the Tangale, and the people all over the areas the British ran as the Middle Belt and infused the Sudanese Interior Mission, which now gave birth to things like Ayokwa Church, gave birth to Kokin, gave birth to Lingu, Christi, Al Sudan Hentif, and the other people that today, because of those educations they got, were far much ahead and far more leaning towards freedom than the rest of the people in the areas where the education didn't come. And because the education didn't come there, you today have the UN corroborating what I've said for years, that because of lack of education, you don't have the logistics to compete in a competitive environment brought about by democracy. So you see, that's why you see all this insurgency, it keeps recurring. Whether it is in Buhari, Shagari's time, you had the Maitasine. In this time, you had, what was that first? The Sharia riots. Then it mutated into Boko Haram. You can't kill those things with the guns. No. There's a sociological reactions to the strengths of competition. If Buhari was really honest about fighting those things, he should have allowed Good Luck's attempt to bring education to the North. He spent over 150 billion and built several elementary schools. But I could understand why he wouldn't want that.
Taking education as the key factor, as the reason why this is happening, isn't that what some people will tell you? Okay, that is why we want to call for restructuring, because we want to be able to have this and have that.
That's not why the restructuring. Restructuring is because through the days of the military's involvement, there's been a fraudulent construct of the structures that just do not take the truths into being. If you look through a satellite imagery downstairs, you wouldn't see nobody in the Sahel, but then you see politicians and the soldiers write several numbers, create several states, a lot of things. Now you have those who are not with education, seen to be ruling those with the education. So restructure it, let the country run on competitive positions. Let the people run themselves. Let the different regions do their own thing autonomously. You don't have to put everybody together. And if you want to get better, like the other regions that you think are doing better, you learn what they're doing. And the easiest way to do that is to commit to a master plan to education. You don't care about education. Why would you think you'll be able to do anything? Today we talk about North Korea. Despite the propaganda about it, they did a targeted education of several thousands of engineers. And those engineers they used to build the missiles that they have. Same thing for the Soviet Union. So no matter what it is you want, you must plan. Nobody plans up north. Today it's ascribed as the poverty capital of the world.
Okay, quickly in reaction, Ayo, do you subscribe to that?
I don't really subscribe to all that he said.
Okay, why not?
Yeah, and one part is when you're saying Jonathan, the Jonathan Almajiri School and all that. Almajiri School was a good concept actually to try and see how you can bring a lot of kids up straight back to the school. But I think it goes beyond just saying it's a Jonathan Buhari thing. It's just to the thing of the country itself as Nigeria and people who bring themselves forward and take this country forward. the current president of the country was voted by every Nigerian. So he has to manage the Nigerians.
That's not true. That's not true. Buhari was not voted by Nigerians. I belong to the 5%.
That did not. Okay, yes, but then he won.
All right, fine. Politics is a game of numbers. He had the highest number, and then he's elected as president. And if some people actually are not very comfortable with presidents, they can also use that same right they have to vote him out. But so long as he's the president, we have to begin to look out for what he's doing, and let's analyze them holistically to see are they actually bringing the desirable result we want for this country to move forward or not. And I'll say yes, they are. We've been seeing issues, we've been seeing ideas, we've been seeing moves to try and see how this country can be united as one. You can have your different arguments on that. That's allowed as a democracy. But we shouldn't take away the flesh. And I was giving you instances of how it was in the past. In the past, this country was getting over $100 per barrel from crude. We had so much money. We weren't equipping our military. It was like a bazaar. They opened the doors up and they were eating the entire money like, I don't know, like kids taking lollipop or something. Whereas we had a serious case faced with the country. And nothing was done about that. Now we've seen a different, it's not perfect yet, but we've seen what's happening. We've seen with the limited resources we have in the country. We're seeing what has been happening. If you're following the efforts, they are reactivating platforms. They are purchasing Tucanos. They are re-equipping, they are buying more weapons. They are bringing out grants from other countries. We're training our troops. This is how realistic because we should look at. Let's not look at big things. And you see, like restructuring, I see that as a very big thing. That everyone just comes in and then use that as a platform. What do you want to restructure? Is it economic restructuring? Is it political restructuring? What kind of restructuring are you talking about? We're having issues of what's it called? We're having issues with the minimum wage. So some states that cannot actually even pay their owing over 21 months. What's restructuring? So let's be very objective and patriotic. Because we only have one country, and this is Nigeria.
Now, before I ask you the question, I want to quickly...
The issue of restructuring is only understood by those who understand it.
Okay, quickly,
most Nigerians don't know it.
I really want Paul to react, to a statement he just made. Quite significant, and of course, as it affects everyone, is the new minimum wage. We're just supposed to resume from strike today, because of the same matter. Looking at how the amount that has been asked for, yes, they've come out to say, okay, this amount is not feasible, it's not realistic. Do you agree with that?
I will tell you, minimum wage was last increased in 2011 from 9,000 to 18,000. As an economist, I will tell you what that means. At that time, exchange was 125,000. As we speak, exchange rate is 360,000. So what we are saying is that we have not only impoverished labor by giving them 1/3 of what they earned in 2011. Average inflation between 2011 to 2018 is at about 12% multiplied by 7. If you want to be charitable, say multiply by 6. 12% multiplied by 6, add that to times 3. So what we are paying labor is 5,000 naira or 4,800 of what they earned in 2011. So do you say that those people who are still doing 100% of the same job they did in 2011 should only earn about, say, 20% of the money they earned in 2011? Now, I need to balance the argument. In balancing the argument, labor should fight for things that government, past and present, have not done. What are those things? Government have not provided Nigerians, because minimum wage goes beyond civil servant. They've not provided Nigerian with good power supply. You hear presidents say that the country has now a platform for investors. Without power, nothing will work. When you talk about no power supply, arguably we've expanded generation to 7,000 to previous 5,000 of the large administration. But you know what matters? You cannot generate and send to homes from generation. It needs to go through transmission. Transmission has bottleneck of only 2,500. By the time you get to distribution, you only have between 2,000 and 3,000. So the argument of an expanded power supply doesn't make any sense. The real sense is what is available for factories and homes. It's between 2,000 to 3,000 megawatts. And I will quote the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, who said, if all Nigerians put up a bulb in their homes, the transmission company of Nigeria will shut down, which is the truth. Because we don't have capacity. For me, I see no reason why past government or present government should be considering government involvement. Government still owns Transmission Company of Nigeria, in spite of the privatization that was done by last administration. This administration, perhaps, I think, is too careful to take basic economic decision. That's why it took us 6 months to appoint minister. Of all the ministers we appointed, 2, at least, we don't know if there are many more, don't even have a NYSC certificate. Upon all our carefulness, what has come out of all of this? So as if there were not enough, are we saying labor 56,000? The real money we should pay labor now is 72,000. If you make provision for inflation, you make provision for exchange rate disparities that we have, labor should be paid 72,000. But what would labor spend the money on? On education. What is happening in public school? The governor of Kaduna State revealed to us that over 80% of the teachers in schools are not qualified in public schools. Is these schools that we said and they start picking beans for their teachers because there are no proper systems? Bill Gates came to Nigeria and was telling our authority that Nigeria is in fact going backward because of development. And everybody wondered. You know the truth? Human development index is a good parameter to measure what is happening to a country, not just GDP. Human development index showed that Nigeria fell between 2017 to 2018. We were 152 of 189 countries. Now we are 157 of 189 countries. These are measured, brought up by by UNDP. So have we improved? And that man has authority to speak more than all the 4 of us here. You know why? He spent $1.5 billion on this economy every year in charity work. He spent more money than most governors, than most of us. So if he says that Nigeria is going backward in spite of the money spent, he's only talking about investment that he's not expecting any returns for.
So quickly, Kach, yes, not to stop you. Let's look at how it's fair. There's been a back and forth between this administration and the previous administration. PDP has been in power for 16 years. Is it not too early to try and compare what has been to what is going to happen? The present government is telling you, give us more time. We're just laying the rocks. Is that a fair ask?
No, it's not. There were no basis for comparing the two. The PDP was a Nigerian government. This is not a government. This is not a Nigerian government. Don't forget that. Because of its inability to allow Nigerians to contribute to running of government, we're about to fall into a second recession in 3 years. It's not that we do not have intelligent Nigerians that could help move the country forward. Buhari's employment of nepotism as a policy of state has ruined everything. Look at it. Because Trump looked at the U.S. intelligence estimate and called our president a lifeless person. And that shows how very corrupt we are. If truly...
Come out to him and say he did not
listen,
make that statement.
Sister, we're not fools. If he's that health challenged, an honest man will walk away. If you're not well in a football match, you walk away and allow the healthy players to play. Why must you be there? And then the team goes down. That's not fair. Buhari's government is the most corrupt government in the history of Nigeria. The workers deserve everything they should get. And I believe 72,000 is nothing compared to the average wage of a lot of people. What the disparity in NNPC and in the Ministry of Works? What the disparity in NNPC and in the Ministry of Labor?
How are they going to pay these monies, though? Let's look at what we already have.
The best you can do, remember, the last government was doing weeding. The last government invented BVN, invented the TSA, and then they were going to do that in polite, graduated moves. This government thought otherwise. For what the BVN was introduced, what they have just done, nothing. Now, look at the other parts of the game. Look at our country across the world. Our citizens are not cared for wherever it is. Our president demarcates the country. If Buhari intends to run a national government, he should stop the killings in the Middle Belt. I put it to you the last time I came here. That Buhari is complicit in the killings because he's not allowed the security services to go in and arrest and prosecute a single one of those who commit that militia act of well-coordinated, government-protected killings and cleansings, which his spokesman on television told us is for ancestral land. Must we die for our ancestral land if we refuse to give it up by force?
Okay, quick. Let's get a reaction from you, Ayo. You know, being a security expert, do you agree to that? Is it one person? Does the president? Let's look at his office and what everyone is clamoring for. Does the president have a say? Can the president actually nip the security challenge we're facing in the bud if he wants to?
He can do his best, but security challenges are actually collaborative of everybody. The president, security agencies, and the people that reside where they are. And I'll give you some practical.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line there. Let's quickly take that call while
Right.
you come back to your thoughts. Hello there.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm Alex. I'm calling from University.
Alex from Rivers. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, my question, not even this goes like this. Sorry, I don't think that, I don't know the third man that is there, the third one that is, saying that Buhari is the corrupt president, that he did that and that. But I'm not sure that the man is from this Nigeria. Because if you look, there is no government, there is no corruption. There is no government, there is no corruption inside. And we have to put our heads together to fight something, because if we keep on condemning the president, that is the way we are going nowhere. At least we have to face the fact and know that he's trying to fight something else. No government, there is no corruption. But I just want him to put his speech very well. At least you know that is the president. Sometimes, if you want to utter the word, this is a TV show. It's the word I watch it too.
All right, Alex, thank you very much there for that contribution. Yes, go ahead with your line of thought.
I would like to tell him
Yes,
that when a
please.
fish starts to go bad, it starts from the head.
Okay.
So I was giving you practical examples of that, and I'll give you one of them. And I said the crisis going on, the crisis going on in jobs now. There was a former vegetarian that was said to be kidnapped. Some days ago, his car was found
Found
in
in
the
the
pond.
pond, yeah.
And in that pond, they found 4 other cars and about 27 kidnappers. So what that tells you is that okay, people are taking off the road, killed, and then they dump it there. The military, the members of the Operation Safe Haven were trying to go to that pond and get it dried up and see what's going on there. About 50 women came out, almost stark naked, and protested that they shouldn't go there. I'm just painting a picture to you. So you
Okay,
see,
this is very important what you're saying. We're listening to you, but we have another caller who is very passionate about sharing his contribution. Hello there.
Hello?
Yes, your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, please, I'm calling from Kogi State. The channel I'm watching is CTV.
Yes.
Yeah, please,
Hello there. I think we lost
please,
it.
the volume of the television we just went off. We don't know what the problem is all about. Please.
Okay, do you have a
Hello?
contribution? We're talking X-ray. We're X-raying
Hello?
Nigeria at 58. Hello there. I think the line is quite bad. Go ahead with your
so
contribution.
I'm giving an example that you can see what was happening. So until the military actually went there and then they found it. So in the end of it, the president is one person that gives orders to service chiefs. The service chiefs actually go there and work with the people there to get human intelligence. So if you don't get the right intelligence, how do you fight the problem? Because the people there help. They're like the eye of society. So it's like a tripod. One cannot stand without the 2 legs. That's on that note. Now, if you say Buhari is the most corrupt president, I can say that's your opinion. But I can also correct that opinion. And I can tell you that we've been having grand corruption in this country. Not just mere corruption, 100 million. We've been having grand corruption. And I'll give you an example of this. In 2009, we built out about 30 banks. No, 5 banks owned by about 30 people, but about 5 trillion naira. Our budget for this year is about 9 trillion naira. Now, government was bailing out banks just by a few people. That's so much of that. Now we had the issue of Malabo oil deal that we just had a conviction in Italy whereby they've arrested 2 people and they've got about $100 million from them. And then UK repatriated about £70 million to us. And that Malabo oil deal was just done by 4 people. That Ethiopia was former minister of petroleum who got an oil well with Abacha's son, took Abacha's son off it, got to deal with Shell, worked with some people in previous government, and he shared this entire resource of this country. That's one. We also had from oils, with the revolutions that's been there, we had
So it didn't just start today.
It didn't just start
yes,
today. So all I'm saying right here is that now you've seen
He's talking about Abacha's government in which Buhari served. And Buhari came. Abacha still nothing.
I can allow you
it's like when he's done, you react.
Now you're talking about you talk about BVN and TSC. Fine, government is a continuum. It was initiated by the previous administration, but did we get the political will to implement it? No was the response to it. On that TSC, that we have over 9 trillion naira in the account, government coffers. Over BVN, we'll see what that has been helping with FRS. We've seen what that's helped. FRS is making so much of money that we're actually hidden. Just last week, we got about 12 billion naira from about less than 10 companies. These are people that had a turnover of over 3 billion naira, but were underpaying their taxes. So in the past, this country was run like a mad nation, like not even like a mafia zone. People just sit down, no one knows what's going on. People just allocating resources of this country to themselves and their cronies and their concubines. And right now, we're not trying to see a departure, we're seeing a new order to this. We can have different kind of names, that's not fine. But the whole fact here is that, do we get the result? The president, you're talking about Trump, the president has been a toast of global leaders. He was elected first, he was going to visit, he got an invitation from G7 before he was sworn as the president. So it tells you that the world has seen a man that has the integrity they have. He's the face of anti-corruption in Africa.
That's not true.
So
the man today, I agree with the Financial Times on their reports about him being lifeless. I agree with the Economist. I also agree with the HSBC report that Buhari has so run the country down. If he wins again, the country is gone. I agree with the Wall Street Journal.
Okay, quickly. I think we have another caller
Nigeria
on the
has
line.
had 2 calamities.
Okay.
One, the Civil War. The second one is President Buhari.
Hello there. Hello there. Yes, your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Fidelis, calling from Oka.
Fidelis from Oka. Okay, go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah. What I have to say about this Buhari administration is that the past government are causing the corruption. So when Buhari comes to solve the problem, everybody started running. That is the problem that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you there, Fidelis. Yes, you were on a point, Kach.
I said I agree wholeheartedly with the positions of the Wall Street Journal that since after the independence of Nigeria, it has had 2 very disturbing calamities. One, the Civil War. Second, Buhari. Buhari today is the biggest challenge to democracy in the entire sub-Saharan Africa. A man who does not have the skills to administer over people, who does not even read files. The only thing he does is read prepared text during conferences. Buhari has dragged our country down. Under Buhari, our country has become the poverty capital of the entire world. Our country is still today home to the highest population of children without access to education. Why was I talking about education? Because as my friend said, building human capital is the #1 thing to do. I was talking about the schools done by Goodluck. What would you put about them? The beauty about it is if elementary is what they have, use the elementary system to allow them the capacity to read, to do maths, to learn about biology, to learn about those things that are not included in the elementary syllabus. So maybe, just like the universities do the GST class, you now have a child with a holistic knowledge of what education means. Let me mark it to you, my dear. Maybe you don't know this, I'm saying. If the North does not embrace education, it will be left behind. The country will not wait. Go and read if you don't know this. When I talk about things about restructuring, it may not mean to you because you don't understand it. But our country is being dragged down by lack of access to education. Nothing else.
Okay, we have a caller on the line there. Hello, Paul.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Paul. Could you go ahead with your contribution?
Thank you so much. I want to, first of all, commend you people for bringing some of these issues to the front burner. And I want to thank you because the adage says a fool at 40 is a fool forever. But when a man up to 58 and he is still learning to walk, something is fundamentally wrong with that person.
Of course.
My greatest challenge with Buhari government is nepotism, which is the worst form of corruption.
Worst form.
There is no nation that has ever thrived with nepotism. Take all the failed states. Take all the countries that have failed. These are the indices. And we are on the precipice. I am disappointed with what is going on. People expected Buhari to display integrity. And when you have nepotism as a capital, it's governance. What you have is corruption. There is nothing you can take away from it. And I want to finally, my final submission is that today's economy is run on intelligence. In fact, today we are talking about nanotechnology, machine learning, and we are still talking about trying to grow a country, trying to keep government right. Buhari is unfit to be the president of a country like Nigeria. I'm disappointed. And I believe Nigerians, instead of political leaning, are already disappointed with this man. And I know that God will save this country, because if we continue this way, this economy will one day collapse. He doesn't believe in restructuring. That is my problem. I want to thank your guest. Much as they show political allegiance to Buhari, the ones that are supporting, I want to talk to Dr. Kach. Continue to talk, because this is our country. If it collapses, it's on our head. Even the people who are supporting Buhari, if it collapses, it's on our head. And
All
I
right,
don't want this country. I want this country to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Paul from
Yes, let's go to you, Paul. We've seen what's happening. Is it because, okay, we have a leader. Is it because we don't have an economic leader? What is the problem? The Minister of Finance has come out to say that our debt to GDP ratio is 3%, as stated. Is less than 3%, rather.
It's less
so
than
what
what?
is less than 3%?
I'm
What
not
is the
sure.
problem?
She's not an economist.
Of course,
So,
that's a lie.
and when we make economic statement,
Okay.
and you have an economy where our CBN governor is not an economist, our Minister of Finance is not an economist, you have a lot to worry. What pays
Quickly,
back debt?
while we have a lot to worry, before we continue on that thought, someone else is on the phone. Hello there.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from?
Alex from Liverpool. I want to know, it's like the gentleman there you have in your studio, in your studio. You understand? They have personal issues with the president.
Okay, do you know what you do? Quickly, just sit back, watch as the program progresses, and listen to the facts that are being delivered. Thank you very much there, Alex. So you were saying.
So, as I was saying, when you borrow money from a bank, you don't talk about your revenue, your total revenue. You look at part of the money you will use to pay back. For the Nigerian federal government, let me give you figures. And you may want to browse, the people listening at home could check. Go to www.dmo.gov.ng. .gov.ng. You see the debt stock of Nigeria as at June, before we collected recent one from China. As at June 30, 2018, it is 22.3 trillion naira. As at 2015, it was 10.6 trillion naira. Right now, 22.3 trillion naira. And it causes for a lot of worry. As much as I support government on some issues, on the issue of debt, it doesn't make any economic sense. And I will tell you, all the money we spent on infrastructure, 2016 budget, 2017 budget, and the 2018 budget that is not yet implemented, all together is not up to 6 trillion. Where is the remaining 7 trillion naira? That means we are spending for stomach infrastructure. That's one. So what do you use to pay back? You use your revenue to pay back debt. Of this revenue, debt to revenue of the federal government is 70%. I'll tell you what it means. Of every 1 naira we generated in taxes or from crude oil, we are using 70 kobo of the 1 naira to pay back, to service debt, not even to pay back debt. So what do I think government needs to do? Is to look at the strategy, their strategy. One of the things government have done right now is let us reduce the money we are borrowing locally to support money we are borrowing more from abroad. But we need to know, just like CBN governor mentioned, that there are a lot of cause for us to worry. It's not just economists or association of economy that are saying be worried. Even CBN governor, who is supposed to be an employee of government, is saying be worried. Foreign reserve nosedived by 1.5 billion US dollars in a month. Apart from that, look at what is happening to stock, from 60,000 on share index to about 30,000 share index, courtesy those who believe that there is political instability and those who are taking profit are leaving the economy. That's two.
Again, what is happening to GDP? GDP in pre-election years since 1999 till 2000 to the last election grows. You know why? People put money in the economy. People spend money in the economy. Right now, GDP for the first time in the pre-election year went down from 1.9 to 1.5. And you must match that with what is happening to population. What is population growth rate? 2.75%, which means we have the growth of people is more than the way we are growing our economy. That means the economy will starve. So don't be surprised when people fight, even at local level, fighting for survival. How do I think government should respond to this? Because for me, what concerns me the most as economist is not who is right or who is wrong, whether past or present administration is not my concern. My concern is doing what is right. We got it wrong where government feels that we want to diversify away from oil, and the best way to diversify is to agriculture. And agriculture, we are not supporting commercial-based agriculture. We are just supporting individual farmers. No country has grown that way. Countries grow via industrialization. And we will not be industrialized if we don't unbundle the ministry we have given to the former governor of Lagos State, works, power, and housing. We need attention on power, separate from works. Government need to make policy environment for us to generate more power supply to transform and distribute it. I'm not saying this will come in 3 years, far from it. But where is the plan? In 1960, we had an economic development plan. In 67, we had the same. Before military took over, we had economic development plan. Right now, we have economic recovery and growth plan, which is a bit different from NEET, LEADS, and SEEDS. Guess the challenge the economic recovery and growth plan has. Of the 36 states and FCT, only 4 found it friendly. So with all the beautiful policies federal government will be making, state government will come collect their money, and at the end of the day, they said you're on your own with the economic policy. Does that not mean that Nigeria should restructure? If you don't understand what restructuring means, what concerns economists, you can leave all the politics apart. It is, we need fiscal federalism.
Of course.
Fiscal federalism, I don't care about the word restructuring.
It's the only way to go.
Whether you call it restructuring or you call it structuring, I don't care. Fiscal federalism, how much is Osun State? So if people understand, all the fight you see in Osun will not have been. The state has 900% debts of internally generated revenue. Why are people fighting? If I were among the politicians, Osun job is not attractive. 900% to debt, not 90. Which means if Osun State generates money for 10 years, it's not still able to pay back. So what's the point? The people are not also asking the question because we are not educating our people enough. And I thank God for your station, perhaps that because I've heard calls come from all over the country. More people need to know. Citizens need to have information. You have run a state from a debt of 5.5 billion to over 400 billion debt. And you're looking for what we've done with the money, just like I'm looking for what government has done. There are good policy government have made Empower program to support young people, but the challenge with that is youth unemployment is still unprecedented, 33.1%. So as the policy are being made, there seems to be a disconnect with the performance of all of these policies. So the thing is, I think government needs to call stakeholders ASAP. We have the vice president obviously championing the economic course. The man is a lawyer, is a son. We have the Minister of Finance, who is a chartered accountant or an accountant at best. We have the CBN governor, who read banking. But economic policy, and I must say the CBN governor has improved a lot from who he was when he first took the job. So I must give that to him. But you see, economics, you cannot circumvent economic knowledge. If not, you will not be using GDP to measure the performance of the economy. What is happening? Let me give you something. There's what we call economic complexity index. Economic complexity index measures the available knowledge for product and human development in a country. 131 countries were rated. Nigeria took 120th position of 139 countries. We are beneath Ghana, we're beneath Gabon, we're beneath South Africa, we're beneath Egypt. And guess the product Nigeria have competencies to produce. First among all, tomatoes, ladder, where people are talking about nano economy, when people are building television. So for me, government past and present, we need to help. Of course, I think in 2003, Nigeria was 96. Even in the 60s, Nigeria was 92, which was our highest ever. But right now, because the world is not waiting for us, The world is not waiting for us. Whatever we're going to do, able to take all stakeholders from the right and the left to come together and get the best of brains in Nigeria for this country to work. Because if this country does not work, politicians that people fight for or people don't fight for, at the end of the day, they meet at event, they hug themselves, and they move on. But you know what stayed with us? The baton India handed over to us in February, economic capital of the world.
That's right. Now, Dr. Kach, let's talk about how the political structure has been. We can see now that governance is looking like it's taking back seat, where we see people that are supposed to be doing things to move the country forward. I'm talking about the postponement for the resumption of the National Assembly. People have come out to say, they're putting politics in front of as the fore and making governance and policies, things that are supposed to, that are time bound, taking a back seat. What would you say concerning that? What comments would you
I think it's all in reaction to Buhari. Buhari has been the problem. He came in and he's using the hammer to see everybody as a nail.
But I don't think that is fair.
Let me
For
finish.
National Assembly,
I will tell you, yes,
not to reconvene.
please.
I think
National
they should
Assembly
resume,
is
irrespective of what the
in
president
reaction
is
to Buhari. Who did I say? Buhari. Who came there to try to seize the National Assembly? The SSS. Who is the SSS? A special squad created just for the president. Check the laws. So if they come, seize the maize, took it to somewhere.
No, they were not the ones.
Let me finish, please. Speak for yourself.
Okay, sir.
Because you have several people.
But when you
who
say
know
that,
there.
yes. But when you say,
If
when you make
government
statements
agents
like that,
come, seize the maize, and then we're shocked that there are spare mazes, their game failed. The next day, they brought it back and said, we saw it under the bridge along the express road.
so how does this?
Now, that they didn't stop there. The party chairman came up threatening, we will destroy the place, we'll overthrow you with 23 senators. But those were verbal violence against what the president had never met before. Don't forget, the president used to be a military head of state when he did coup to destroy Shagari's democracy. But at that time, he had a judiciary and Dodon barracks. This time, he had a third gang of 469 people. The National Assembly. Anything you do, those will go and plan. Ideas from 10 or 20 of them will just counter anything he does.
Okay,
And
quickly,
this
I
is
think we have
what
a
he
caller
was
there.
not very, very comfortable with.
So let's take that call while we continue. Hello there. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, your name and where you're calling from. Oh, Moses from Kogi State.
Oh, yes.
Yes, go ahead with your contribution, please.
Let us, we are hearing that Nigeria is about going to recess. What the money we have collected so far, all the money we have been making, all sold and everything, where is the money?
Okay.
The road from Abuja to Port Harcourt is unbearable. Everywhere. The only project we know in Nigeria now is Ibadan, Lagos Railway. Which other project Nigeria is embarking? Unless the governor of CBS putting money, he's getting. Now we are going to recess. Where is Nigeria going?
Okay, thank you there, Moses. Now, Moses is asking where Nigeria is going, but we're going to get while
I'm
you were
trying to
answering.
tell you this because
Yes,
I'm
the
close to the
question.
senators and members of National Assembly. They said every time they plan to resume, the Oshomole plan comes in. And they really want to dare him and see how he can
To
actually
the
do that
detriment
thing,
of the people,
what he can do.
to the
Listen,
detriment of the populace.
when you have a threat of people very close to your house, saying every time you come out of the house, they will dagger you. You don't foolishly go and dare them. You calm down and see what they will do. Allow the National Assembly to be. You may not be used to them in the first time when you came, but
Okay.
now that you're
I
there,
think
allow them to be.
we have another caller on the line. Hello there. Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm calling from Kogi State. My name is Ali.
Okay, Ali from Kogi. Go ahead.
Okay. When Buhari came to Lokoja, to do a campaign. He promised us that he's going to, that Ajakuta Iron and Steel will work. But up to now, there's nothing. Even in this budget, they said they didn't include it. Is it good? So, if you discuss on that, please, I would like you to.
All right, Ali, thank you very much.
Sorry, I just need to quickly talk about the National Assembly. I'm a Democrat, although I'm a professional. I don't think National Assembly should be cause of the threat of any political party's chairperson or chairman refuse to reconvene. I feel that they are there to represent the interests of Nigeria. The first time National Assembly was invaded, Nigeria spoke vehemently against such invasion. The second time the National Assembly was invaded, while by the blockage by the SSS or DSS that we saw, Nigerians vehemently called on the acting president, and the acting president took the needful decision by asking the boss to step aside. So I think the National Assembly should rely more on what Nigeria can do for them rather than having imaginary fear or verbal fear that somebody might give to them. I just think we should put that in order, because a lot of us laws are being sent, bills, private bills are being sent to the National Assembly, and because of it, the law might not be made. They might have genuine concern with the political parties, all about politics, but you are there first because of the people. So secondly, I want to talk about the person that talked about recession. I don't know if it's time to respond to that. Yeah, the CBN governor says that we need to be careful so that we don't go back to recession. And all the indicators to take us back to recession are in place.
Yes.
Inflation has started to increase again. Economic growth has started to fall.
Of course.
Foreign reserve has started to fall. Poverty has increased. And poverty means people will not have money to spend. And we are going to a point where CBN has retained rate at 14%. And you know that's implication of what commercial bank will charge between 25 to 28. It's an implication of what microfinance will charge between 36 to 72. And money lender between 72 to 120%. So the economy that is supposed to be relaxing, and guess what? Mr. Fowler's team are not taking it easy. They have to keep pursuing people to pay their taxes. And tax policy, as much as it's good for the federal government or the state government, is not good for the private sector, because it's going to reduce, it's going to increase economic contraction. And recession feeds on economic contraction. So what happens to the budget that we've passed thus far with weak fiscal policy makers? So for me, I think the recession, we could have avoided by quickly reconsidering some of the economic policy that is being made right now this moment.
That will not happen.
Quickly, Mr. Kach, quickly.
The strategy in politics is to force a Scotch-ed policy so nobody has money, and those with money will be able to buy our votes cheap.
All right.
Thank you very much. You see, I think Nigerians, or I don't know if we have a deliberate amnesia or what, because I can tell you that previously when we had Obasanjo as a president who was changing Senate presidents like a diaper for kids. Once he doesn't see you going towards what you wanted, he gets shot. Now coming back to it right now, because a lot of the things we're talking about here, recession and all that, hinging on 2018 budget has been funding is yet to actually pass. When the 2015 came up, when they were supposed to get their elect leaders of National Assembly, the president, by his own convictions, didn't play any game in it. People of the party were so angry with that. They said, see, you have to get somebody who's your lackey to actually man the National Assembly, because it will avoid things you're actually going through right now. But he said he's a Democrat. He's a reformed Democrat. So he was trying to play by the rules. And then that's how we had an emergence of a Saraki and then the guy. And that actually happened where in the first place you're having a ruling party embedded opposition. His deputy was actually a PDP senator. So it gives you a picture, a holistic picture of how we've been playing high wire politics. Now back to this. Now the National Assembly was closed for how long right now? It took them 8 months to pass the budget. The government came and said we want to try and see how we can have a budget cycle of January to December. So by that they tried to bring the budget early in National Assembly so they can go through it, all the committees and pass it. But it was held for 7 to 8 months. Now CBN is now saying we need massive spending. And this spending is already hinged on the economic growth physical growth plan of the country, ARGP. But right now there's no action. So People have to begin. And then the
Why?
National Assembly. Why? Because
Because of the
all the
government.
money is for the states.
Well, all
the
the money
state
that is
government are not
budgeted.
supporting economic recovery
Of
and
course,
government. See,
that's
Nigeria as a nation.
Buhari
Nigeria as a
purposely
nation.
says forcing
Nigeria as
the
a
economy
nation.
Okay.
It's not just federal
Okay,
government.
Fucking
we
our
need to
budget.
land
All
the
the
point.
budgeted, what
Let's
is
need
doing
to land
with
the point. We
them?
need to land the
Nothing.
point.
Can we be very?
Yes.
Can we be
The
very?
man purposely drives the economy into recession.
One line of thought at a time, please.
I don't
One line of
believe
thought.
so.
Can I
One line of
so.
thought.
Can I land?
When
One
you
line of
refuse
thought.
to plan,
Catch.
you are planning to fail.
Sorry, Mr. Ayo.
Okay, one line of
Dr.
thought at a
Kach,
time.
sorry,
I wanted to just say
Mr.
something
Ayo, sorry.
to
See,
When
I
you
believe-
refuse to plan,
with-
you're planning to
with
fail.
With due
Okay.
respect, sir,
There's
the president is our president. We all might not like him, we all may like him, but I think that there will be no leader, in all fairness to him, who will want to deliberately run his country to recession.
What about deliberately have his people killed in the middle belt?
How is that possible? I raise the point of what's happening. Just how is that possible? See,
The army can do a forensic investigation to find those cars in the pond. So could security services do forensic investigation to find those who have been killing in the middle belt if the presidency allows them.
But that's been happening. We got this guy was arrested. What's his name?
We're all
Tishaku from Benue
Nigerians.
State. Who used to be with Boko Haram? Yeah. See,
Sorry,
let's
quickly. Bob, sorry. We have a caller who is very anxious. Hello there.
Paul is back from Abakaliki.
Okay, Paul from Abakaliki. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. I am happy with the economy. I have listened to the indices he has read out, and these are true indices. I have actually been looking in the last 3 days at the growth indicators of Nigeria in the last 3 years. And funny enough, I am surprised that my honorable there on white is disputing some of these facts, because national development and economic growth is not a sudden flight. It's not a flash and dash. I believe that the government must get its act right immediately and begin to reposition our economy. Because one thing is sure, if we plan this economy the way it should be, with massive unemployment, with decrease in GDP, with high debt rate to GDP ratio, and all the other things that are negative economic indicators, our economy will not make progress, irrespective of who is there. And funny enough, it might surprise you that you can use ages to build an economy, but you can destroy it in just a matter of 1 year. One administration can slide it. And I want to advise Nigeria, it's important, especially the government. They must get the macroeconomic policies right. There are no two ways about it. It doesn't matter whether Buhari is there or whoever is there. I'm happy that you people are beginning to set the agenda for the government. The truth must be told, and it must be told timely.
All right,
so
Paul.
that we will get these things right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that contribution.
I'm not disputing the fact he said. I'm only saying that the ARGP as a document is a good blueprint to help. And this is actually what helped us out of recession. And now all we need right now is massive infrastructure, massive spending. And that's why government is borrowing, because right now our revenue is not really coming so much from oil. Well, oil is increasing to about $84 per barrel now, which is
multiplied by 1.7 million we get. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But it's been growing actually.
All those are just rhetorics.
I'm coming.
Everything
That's
they collect,
one. Now
no
I want
spending.
to tell you
We're
about.
still borrowing.
I want to tell you about the diversification of the economy, and this is one part that has been so well. We've been spending about $4 to $5 million every year to import rice daily. But now we've been seeing a deliberate policy. That's why I was talking about on that. Or someone raised that on the fact that commercial. You raised that.
Yes, I raised
We have the Anchors Borrowers Program that was initiated by the CBN, and this we've seen what happened between Kebbi and Lagos. It's huge. And then what they did was that they said every state should go back and look out for one commodity that they are strong in, and then you get funding for that. And a lot of people came for rice. So we had some in Ebonyi, we had in Niger, we had in Kebbi, we had in about 10 states or so. And then the ARGB has like what you call the focus labs, whereby they break them into various sectors. Okay, you put the massive infrastructure into this, and now we have clusters in the southeast in Aba, because you understood that Aba is thriving. So let's make a lot of investment there. About $25 billion is going into Aba. So you inherited a battered economy. That has been bleeding from every angle. You patch here, is pleading there. So I can't, in all honesty, I'm not really defending the government, but I can tell you that we can see a sincerity of purpose. Now you have SIP. SIP is playing so much role. The homeschool feeding program is a very good program because you have parents who don't want to take their kids to school because they can't feed them. And they say, bring the kids to school. They have free meals. And that also, who gets the meals? The farmers from the town. So you go and get the farmers, they produce the product, either rice, yam, egg, or whatever, poultry, different. So it's trickling down. And that's all we need. We have the conditional cash transfer. They spent about 5,000 naira to the poorest of the poor. They had to identify them. And this was World Bank. World Bank had a project they were doing before until the government came in and said, fine, we like this. And that's why the Wacha loot was actually channeled into the same thing again.
Okay, let's take that call. Hello there.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is James calling from Lokoja.
James from Lokoja. Go ahead.
Yeah, please, I just want to come in to say a position whereby people use the issue of middle belt crisis and the making campaign. The middle belt crisis has started since ever before some of them here were born. We are aware that the city governor and the chief of that state was attacked, was almost being killed by the herdsmen. Where were these people that are making noise now? That herdsmen, some of the very government. We are aware when the herdsmen almost ravaged the whole of Agatu. In the government of Goodluck, the government of Obasanjo. You were there when Obasanjo came on in Instagram, kill people like animals. Where were you? And you did not come out to make all this noise. But now you make noise as if it's just now that things like that are happening. So you should not just use all these things for political campaign and all these things. It has been happening. At least he is trying his best. It has happened before. Good Lord came and got it. He too is cutting his own. So please, to me, you people should just start using that as a excuse. And bring another excuse for this campaign. People have been campaigning. Every person will come out and say middle belt. Is it only middle belt? Things are happening everywhere. There are kidnapping, there are talking here and there. There are all these pleasure data guys here, the shopping in creek here. You don't talk about that. You talk about only middle belt. Please, sorry, I'm okay. I'm
all right, James. All right, James. Just try and contain your emotions
What
for
you was talking about in the
future.
Obasanjo area were herdsmen and farmer crisis. What we have today is not herdsmen and farmer crisis. What we have is a properly formed militia committing killings and cleansings, in the words of the president's spokesman, because of ancestral land.
This is very unbelievable.
And those are the things that we say. Since the president's spokesman said it on TV, nobody has come from the villa to dispute his words. He said it's either we give up the ancestral lands or we may be underneath it 6 feet. Now, I challenge anybody from the villa to come and say that. That's one. Secondly, those from Kogi State should forget about hoping, because all that the government promised before, they had all those promises cancelled. So if the first promises by Buhari were denied and cancelled, I don't think just yesterday's promise he made to you in Kogi are the ones that
Okay, Dr. Kach, let's allow. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, something on as Kogi people on Lokoja. I can tell you that there's been if you're following up on maybe on social media, there's been the Rail Up Nigeria, and then the Itape from Itape to Delta is work has started already, and this happened. This was conceived long time ago when we were supposed to work on Ajokuta. Right now, they've got investors that are coming to invest. Actually, Russian. These are the pioneer investors.
Okay, sorry, we have another caller
from Kogi
on
State,
the line.
I can tell you and I can assure you that Ajokuta is going to come back on stream.
Hello there. Okay, I think we lost the call. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Ajokuta work is going to it. It used to be a cesspool of corruption. Right now.
Sorry, the
Trying
last
to-
question that was just asked, it brought a lot of concern to me. While it is not good to be biased, we also need to tell people not to commit fallacy.
Yeah.
That they are having issues in other places does not mean the Middle Belt or North Central should also have issues. It is wrong for anybody to kill anybody in Niger Delta,
Exactly.
in South, Southeast, Northwest, Northeast, as well as North Central.
Anywhere.
So
in
anywhere it is wrong to take a life. So it is whether it is about politics or not, it's not my business. I'm not here because of interest of any political party. But my interest here is the interest of Nigerians. So killing anyone at all is wrong. So if this is happening in Niger Delta, we know that the crisis might have been there for long. Why do any government, and this was the issue I had with President Goodluck Jonathan when he was in office, he promised to protect life and property. And because he did not do it well, that is why we voted President Buhari. And President Buhari is dead, the killing is even increasing more.
Yes.
We never had, this scale of killings in Middle Belt.
No.
But the scale has increased. Maybe it is you people in the media that made it look more obvious. Maybe we never saw it. Starting with Agatu in 2016,
Yes,
it was huge. 2017, crazy. Currently, in just yesterday, you heard what happened. So it is an issue that is in the national discourse that we must talk about. So don't say because you support Mr. A or Mr. B. At the end of the day, what of all the policies, everything will come down to economy. That's why government is just operating like a property. The next is welfare of the people. How much of the welfare have been protected? Do you feel safe where you are? While we have seen relative improvement in Boko Haram taking over territories, there are still pockets of attacks here and there, which is a lot of concern for Nigeria. So let's hold government accountable and responsible for life, properties, and welfare of the people that we govern. Exactly our point.
Okay, let me ask one that has been on the minds of everybody, and you know, most times when we're on our breakfast show and the lines are open, we have people calling to remind us of this particular fact. We're talking about Leah Shaibu. Recently, the aid worker was, you know, killed, and there's threat that, okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Hello there. Hello. Okay, I think we lost that call there. You know, and there's a threat, we got information, you know, that there's a threat that she would be killed in the next 1 month if nothing is done. How do you see this captivity abduction situation, you know, with the terrorists? Is it being played fairly? What could be done differently? Okay, before you answer that question. Hello there. Hello there. Okay, I think we're having the network, you know, back and forth. So what could have been done differently?
Well, I mean, the terrorists themselves are very intelligent people. And then when they took the reason we heard about the fact why she wasn't released at first was because she refused to announce her fate. And then they kept her back. And then they released other girls, all of them. Only her was left. Government opened the channel of communication with Boko Haram elements. And they were asking for certain, some of the release of their top commanders, their amirs and all that. Well, there was a negotiation going on where they brought in all the girls except Leah. And after seeing that, they now understood that Leah right now is going to be their bargaining chip again. And mind you, there are different factions that actually done this abduction. The girls, people that did the Chibok girls were not the ones that actually took the Dapchi girls.
I think all Boko Haram.
They are, but they're factionalized.
Okay, because that's what an ordinary Nigerian would be.
They're factionalized. You have some that are led by Shekel. Shekel was one that took the Boko Haram. You have Al-Barnawi, who's the son of Mohammed Yusuf, who's the one who ISIS actually look at as their leader right here. He's the one heading the ISIS in West Africa. He has the skills. And he's using them as a currency of negotiation with government. And government is saying, okay, fine, we'll see. That's why they had to kill. Unfortunately, they killed the health worker that works with Red Cross. Yeah. Unfortunately. But it happens everywhere. It's just to actually put more pressure on
we're looking, yes. Now, talking about that pressure, what should the government do? You know, while we're trying to round up, what is the way forward? Because everyone, fingers are crossed. The parents of these people, you know, even came out the other day in some sector of the media that she was going to sue the federal government. So yes, and then she came out, you know, to say that. But all of this is coming up because of the time, or like a time bomb that's placed on the life of this person. So everyone is worried. Everyone is looking at the government. What should be done? What do you advise? What is the way forward? I advise
the fact that government should do everything in their capacity to bring this girl back safely. And they have the right. They have the communication. They're making communication with people that are there. Of course, maybe what they're asking for are quite top, but every life of every Nigerian matters. And I think government has put premium on that. And I expect that soon or later, this girl will be released.
Okay, now, lastly, Paul, in one sentence for time, how do you see, we've been complaining about the back and forth, our economy going nosediving, dwindling. What should the government do? What is the way forward?
Government should find the right persons to help manage the key areas or the key sectors of the economy.
An economic team.
and stop policies that are not working, make new ones that will work and develop the economy.
All right, that's very good. But finally, Kach, in one sentence, that I'm sure that you're going to, we're looking at our political space. We've seen the back and forth. It's not healthy, this administration, that administration. At the end of the day, the people are what matters. Looking at 2019, coming forward, we're seeing the groundwork that is being laid. What should be done differently? What should the electorate have in mind?
Nigeria should come together and elect a government that will run its affairs for the good of Nigeria. Like my friend said, Buhari doesn't have an economic team. How could you drive a car?
We agreed.
Secondly, on what he said about Boko Haram, I'm just laughing. It's Buhari's game to give money to his gang.
All right. Unfortunately,
So
this is where we're
logistics.
definitely going to be wrapping up today's program. It has been a wonderful. Thank you so much there, Kach Ononuju.
Thanks for having
Paul Alaje. Kach Ononuju, the political analyst, Paul Alaje, the economist, and of course, Ayo Akanji, the security expert.